Okay, 230 grain HST went right here. Top down, we have to do kind of at an angle here. It'll be the track all the way on the right. Pretty good wound track for sure. Kind of cross over each other a little bit, but in the second block, did not get near as deep. So again, did not get near as deep. We'll look at it from this side because it's a little bit easier to see the track. And the HST is the bottom track. The Arcs is the one in the middle. Golden Saber's on top. And HST, there you go. Did not get very good penetration though into the block. If I throw this up here, looks like the leading edge got to almost 13 inches and then bounced back, and it's sitting at about 12.25, give or take. So again, looks like real good expansion, but not very good penetration. $9.52. Error. $9.38. $9.24. $9.23. 230 grain Ranger T. Well, I tried to go low, but it went too low, and I exited the block. So I'll retake that one. Ranger T, part 2. Okay, the first Ranger T hit here. I had the blocks on the other, up 180 degrees the other way. So this was the bottom, but I flipped them up to get hopefully better access and better visuals for this test. But it hit real low. And the first one, you can see, did expand some, but exited the block here. And so I took a second shot, and the second shot actually didn't perform very well. Second Ranger T hit right here. And if you look down in there, it's like a pencil thin line, so you can tell there's no expansion. Went all the way through the 18 inches of gel, hit my barrier, and actually it landed right down here on the ground. So maybe you can see, but it looks like you know, no expansion through the heavy clothing. From the front, again, hopefully you can just disseminate those lines there. Maybe if I angle it up here, you can see that the top pencil thin line is that 45 Ranger T, second shot. So that was a disappointing result from what is commonly a very successful round. Ranger T, one more attempt. Okay, that Ranger T went right here. Again, the very last shot was right next to it, so you can get a side-by-side comparison here from the top. And as you can see, this one expanded this time. It's this track right here in the middle. And it made it all the way through down here to the second block. There it sits. From the front here, we're getting a little messed up here with the number of tracks we're getting in here, so it's getting kind of hard to see. So again, it's hard to see. It did flip around backwards in there with some minor expansion. As far as the depth in the block, looks like it got to about 15.5 inches. Now it bounced back. Leading edge is about 15.25. And it is facing backwards, so it did roll around backwards in the block, so, or tumble in the block. So we'll dig that out. $9.85. 1048. $9.45. Okay, here they are, 45 full-size auto, again through the 5-inch Kimber. Again, these arcs, they don't deform at all. There's the Golden Saber, the HST, and the Ranger T series. Left was the pass-through, right is obviously the one that was still in the block. So we'll measure them back at home. Okay, back from the range. This is the second half of the full-size 45 auto test, comparing the Inceptor arcs to the Remington Golden Sabers and the Federal HST and the Winchester Ranger T series. This is the Federal HST and Ranger T recap, and then we'll do a quick summary at the end as well of what we saw overall. If you haven't watched the first video, go back and watch part 1. You'll see the results in the gel and the testing and review on those first 2 rounds. Overall, impressive as always was the HST. We've come to expect kind of this flower shape from the HST. This is also the most modern of the 45 rounds I've tested. Both the Ranger T series and the Golden Sabers have been around for quite a few, many years longer than these HSTs have. But the HSTs performed as you'd come to expect. Most HSTs, the 9mm, the 40 cal, these 45s, even the old 38s when they still made them, all seem to perform quite well. The only caveat on that is my personal experience and some of the reviewing I've seen with the 380 HST is less than stellar. But these 45s did really well. The only catch on them was it did have the shortest penetration depth out of all of them, but it did have the most impressive expansion. So you kind of get that give and take there. The Ranger Ts were surprisingly disappointing. As you saw there, I had to take 3 shots, which is not ideal. I was trying to put that first one low in the block so we could get the side by side of all the tracks, and went about a ½ inch too low and it exited the block at the bottom. Second shot, after I rolled the blocks up 180 degrees, surprised me because it hit a real good spot, a real clear spot in the gel, and it just did not expand. It hit the heavy clothing, and I don't know if it clogged up. As you can see, there's still some clothing that's still stuck on this guy. And passed all the way through. So that was extremely disappointing and fairly unusual for these rounds. But the last shot I took with these did kind of what you expect. There was a big denim plug in the middle there. I plucked that out so you could kind of see the round. And it did have these wicked talons on the side that are very sharp. And it might look like it hit something, and it did. One thing I did leave in the round for comparison's sake was the arcs round. I left it in there so you could compare the depths. And actually at the tail end of this Ranger here, I don't know if I can show you here, but it kind of, you can see there might be a little nick there in the bottom of this round. It hit and bounced off of it, kind of like that. And you might have seen the arcs in the gel there. When I watched the video back, it did ricochet off of that a little bit. And the Ranger kept going and the arcs got pushed down a little bit. So we did have a little bit of damage there. That wasn't this guy's fault. Just kind of what happened with how the test went. So we'll go ahead and we'll weigh these up. And I'll go ahead and give you the average velocities and energies for these rounds. So we'll start with the HST. Again, these should be 230 grains. Retained weight is 230.6, and there might be some gel and other goodies still stuck on these. I clean them off a little bit, just superficially, but I don't give them a thorough cleaning. For the Ranger Ts, 228. What does that say? 228.8. So again, very little or no weight loss at all on any of these. As far as the expansions, we'll throw this back up there and we'll talk about the HST expansion. The expansion on the HST was pretty uniform. I came up with 0.7, what was it? Where's my notes here? I had 0.79, 0.80, and 0.80 inches at the max, which was quite outstanding. And it has the big, bold flower design. So there was still these even at the max, it was still wide pedals there. Whereas for the Ranger, the max is where those points are. So it might be cutting in there, but it's not quite as big of damage, I would expect, with just those little points. But the expansion on the Ranger T was also quite good. 0.75, 0.78, and 0.80 at the max as well. So overall, how did they compare? How did these 4 rounds compare? That's kind of the question that I asked myself beforehand. So again, here's the Golden Saber, here's the ARCs, the Ranger T, and the HST. How did they compare overall? The damage in the blocks, if you looked at the damage from all the different angles and tried to determine which one was the worst damage or caused the most damage, I think it was almost a toss-up. Depending upon the angle you're viewing it at, assuming that the hollow points expanded, and that's the one big caveat here, is that if the hollow points don't expand, you have a damage path, if it doesn't tumble, of just that 0.45 inches wide. Assuming the hollow points work as they're supposed to, and we saw 2 instances out of 5 or 6 shots where it really didn't. The Golden Sabers didn't fully expand, and the the second shot of the Ranger into the gel didn't expand either. So, again, the HSTs performed solidly, but again, you also have to bear in mind this was only 1 shot. If you take 100 shots, are they all going to expand with the hollow points? That's kind of the question. With these non-expanding defensive rounds, you don't have to worry whether or not they're going to expand or what kind of barriers they hit, whether it's clear gel or go through heavy clothing or full denim or whatever your test is. These non-expanders tend to perform pretty well. And I've tested them now in 380. These ARCs I've tested in 380, 9mm, and now in 45, and they've all given the other name brand big dollar hollow points a run for their money. I thought they've all compared and competed pretty effectively. As far as depth penetration, again, the Golden Saber was the overall deepest penetrator, followed by the Ranger T, the ARCs, and then the HST, which just got over our 12-inch threshold. It got to about 13 inches. And again, this is in clear ballistics. Commonly in your calibrated ballistics gel, you don't get quite as big of penetration in that type of material as you do in clear ballistics because the expansion is usually bigger. So bear that in mind as well. As far as expansion, the overall, you give it to the HST. I think second place we can call a tie between the Ranger and the Golden Saber. I mean, the Golden Saber had this big wing, but it also had one pedal not expand. And then as far as the Ranger T, we had good expansion overall, but it's not quite as wide because the widest points are just these little pointy wings that stick out. So. And we also had one that didn't expand at all. So I called that kind of a tie for second place. And then the ARCs, of course, they don't expand. So that's kind of not applicable for them. As far as the energy, I didn't mention the energy here on these HSTs and the Rangers. The HST had a 4-shot average. I had an error on the chrono, so I had to put an extra round in a couple extra rounds in. So I got a 4-shot HST average of 934 feet per second, which is 445 foot-pounds of energy. And then the Ranger T, I got a 3-shot average of 993 feet per second, which is 504 foot-pounds of energy. So out of the 4 rounds, the Golden Saber was the least energy, followed by the ARCs, followed by HST, and they were all pretty close. They were all within about 16 foot-pounds of energy between those 3 different rounds. But the Ranger T at 504 foot-pounds was about 15% more energy than the other 3 rounds in this comparison. So overall, who wins? I don't have an overall winner, I guess. I thought they all performed pretty well. It was concerning to me that we had, the non-expansion and non-fully expansion on a couple of them. HSTs did well, but didn't penetrate as deeply as I would have liked to see. The ARCs, it's just unconventional. I think is my biggest problem with these rounds is that they're lightweight, higher speed. The damage is caused by something maybe we're not all used to. So overall, I don't really have a winner. But that's my review and the testing I've done so far with these. Maybe we'll have some additional testing in the near future with the shorter 45 that I also have to see how they do in a short barrel. But for now, this is what I've got for you, and hope you enjoyed it. And stay tuned for the next one.